Hello! Welcome to Beans Reads. I have a few stories from the malicious and petty subreddits today. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get started. This is from the Malicious Compliance subreddit by KlutzyEnd3. So, I'm the volunteer stage technician at small markets here in the Netherlands. It's great fun, but often the technician is overlooked by the artist. Let's say sending in music 8 hours prior to the event has become a meme at this point, so the setup is built to reflect that. I used to argue with them, but I don't have time for that. The show must go on. So nowadays, I just maliciously comply. This time we had a singer. She was like, "You know what would be awesome? A spotlight. That would make me look really important." Okay, sure thing. Grabs pin spot, climbs in truss, points at her face. Ah, geez, that's bright. I can't see anything. My eyes! Yeah, that's a spotlight. How else do you think it creates a spot on a dark background? It has to be bright. Okay, never mind then. Another one was with an artist who was too late, so she missed the sound check. I hate that because it means standing with a tablet in the audience and live mixing it in. With dynamic microphones, this isn't a big deal. They suppress feedback like a charm, but she had a string instrument. If you point a dynamic mic at that, it picks up only a single string. They're super directional. So I use a condenser mic. It picks up everything, including the speakers. So they're pretty hard to fine tune as they start beeping and echoing pretty fast. So I had it dialed in live just near the edge, and it sounded great in the audience. Then the artist went, "I can't hear it well enough. Can you turn up the volume?" No. Then it starts feedbacking. "Just turn it up." "Okay." "Wee! Turn it down." "Okay, whatever you say, miss." And it goes like that every single time. For some reason, the artists love it because I listen to their wishes, even if their wishes are not that great. I mean, some people just need to live through their mistakes or bad ideas to see that it won't work out. Sometimes I think that our vision for what we want blinds us, and I'm glad you're at least showing them that they may not have the best ideas. Top comments. Cypher915. I do some community theater. Theater directors are sometimes bad. They don't understand how lights and sound work at all. Then they just want ridiculous things to fly in from above, but would then have to be physically mounted to the ground for them to actually work or even be legal, which is just not possible. I only hung out in the theater room after school, so I don't know much about the nitty-gritty details, but I'm not surprised that there are people who just want to push ahead without knowing how it actually works. Zesley responds, "Professional seasoned directors are much the same. They have a vision, so there must be a way to do it. Laws of physics or the government be..." Another comment by Endeavor. Of course they love it when you listen to their wishes. As a technician of any kind, doing your job properly often means you may as well be invisible. On the user's end, things just somehow magically work, and they don't have to think too hard about the effort that went into making that happen. Then, one day, the user has an idea. They want something specific to happen, and suddenly, you exist, because you're apparently the person who can make tech things happen. If, at this point, you tell them, "No, you don't actually want that thing, you just asked because it'll cause XYZ problems," then in many cases, they'll ignore everything you said after "no" and treat you like the enemy going forwards, trying to work around you to get whatever it is they think they want. If instead you give them what they claim to want in a way that makes the problems immediately apparent, they'll change their mind about wanting it, and you'll get credit for both listening to their silly request and for fixing the problems they caused with that request. I mean, it's pretty fitting for a malicious compliance sub. You did exactly what they wanted you to do. Also, yikes. Telling people that the thing that they want won't work out and them just saying, "Nuh-uh," regardless of any explanation you try to give is just frustrating. I can understand giving up at some point. LP replies, "Yeah, if there's one thing I learned is that you cannot answer no. It's either yes I can or yes I could if I had the time for it. It's never no. And yes, I don't exist unless goes haywire. Had one time that the food guys dumped 3 deep fryers on one group. Normally, the breaker of that group pops, but they f***ed up so badly, the generator cut out completely. Everything dark, except my stage. I had an Anchor F2000 in UPS mode in between, and that just switched match is over and we keep going. That's when the technician suddenly is visible in a positive way. The final top comment by Unasked For Advice says, "It was a hard lesson to learn, but there are many people who don't care about the details and they just want to win the argument. By disagreeing at first, they get adamant that they are right and you are stupid. So you have to show them by complying that they are not right." Hopefully, once they're proven wrong, they'll be more open to hearing the expert's opinion before trying to bulldoze their ideas without any feedback. This is on the r/Petty Revenge subreddit by NKDBY. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, it says, "The only thing I won in the divorce. A few years ago, I pulled the pettiest revenge of my life on my now ex-wife. I was in Zambia working on a community project when she sent me a 'Dear John' text. At the time, I was in a very remote area. Power came and went. Mobile service came and went. When you had either, you used it immediately because there was no guarantee it would still be there a minute later. She was back at her home in Europe finishing a project there. The divorce felt somewhat unexpected, though in hindsight, I probably should have seen it coming. We were stupidly competitive about games. Not in a toxic way. At least, not yet. We had a whiteboard at home dedicated to keeping store for cribbage and whatever else we were playing. Even our step count on the health app became a competition." Dude, I'm a level with you. I don't think it's very healthy to be so competitive that your step count app becomes a competition. Anyway, back to the story. "I once ran around the flat while she ran to the store to pick up dinner so that I would still win for the day. We would even compete over who would win each episode and season of Alone. We were sort of gamers too. We'd get drink some wine or beer, veg out in front of the flat screen playing Apple Arcade, and turn every dumb little game into a full-scale conflict. One of those games was Angry Birds. We would stay up later than the other person, beat their score, jump their rank, and keep the whole stupid rivalry alive. I did not take the 'Dear John' text very well. By not very well, I mean I got drunk on village corn liquor and sent her a bunch of mean text like a complete idiot. I was not behaving like a mature adult. She responded by freezing our joint bank accounts. Now, freezing a bank account is bad anywhere. In rural Zambia, that became a real problem. Getting to an ATM already took effort, and even then, there was no guarantee the machine had power, network, or actual money in it. Looking back, if I had not decided to act like a drunken moron, maybe there would have been some tiny chance of repairing the relationship. Then one night, I was lying under a mosquito net, drunk, angry, and feeling sorry for myself. A torch was the only light. Right before I passed out, I checked my phone and saw I had service. I had no one I wanted to call, and I sure as hell didn't feel like apologizing. For whatever reason, I opened Angry Birds, and there she was. While I was out there drinking corn liquor and ruining my life, she had apparently been busy. Higher scores, higher ranks, more progress. That's when I realized I still had access to our shared Apple account, so I deleted her Angry Birds profile. Gone. Then I changed my character name and drunkenly, one-eyed, typed out "you" so she would know it was not a glitch. I am slightly more mature now, and I do not drink anymore. I am still single. I do miss her sometimes. Fun we had. I do not think she misses me. I know I interrupted this post before with this, but are you sure that your guys' competitiveness wasn't toxic? Because personally, I think being in constant competition with your partner, or even just someone you live with, is exhausting. Maybe the wife got sick of it? I don't know. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, a Dear John letter is a partner breaking up with their significant other who's overseas, usually because they found someone else. I don't know what you said to make her so peeved that she would freeze your joint bank accounts, because that's severely dangerous. I'm glad that you made it back all right and that you're no longer drinking, because yikes. The Angry Birds part is funny though, especially since you gave us the background of you guys being competitive, and I think it was pretty well deserved given the danger she put you in with that stunt. Top comments by Captain Linguini. Quote, "We were stupidly competitive about games, but not in a toxic way." Goes on to describe an entirely toxic way. Yeah, I think I've said all I could say about that bit. I get that some people are very competitive, but constantly being in competition, that just sounds way too far for me personally. Forward Dear 9230 says under that, exactly, if OP says that's not toxic, I'd hate to see what he says is toxic. Another comment by Quirky Invite 7664 says, when my friend found out her husband was cheating, among other things, in addition to divorcing him, she threw away many years of marathon and triathlon medals. We would laugh, picturing him bragging to women, claiming to have finished multiple marathons and triathlons. But my crazy ex threw out my medals, so I have no proof. Yeah, right, buddy. Sure, you ran marathons. Ooh, that's a pretty good petty one. I mean, I assume he'll still have the photos of the races, but it does ruin his memories of the races a bit. The final comment by Bartending Barbie says, for what it's worth, the line, I do not think she misses me, shows how much you've grown. I don't know if it shows that he's grown. I'm pretty sure anyone could have figured that out, including him, after he sobered up. And OP replies, personal growth is ugly work, but I highly recommend it. Thanks for seeing past the idiot I was. I'm glad that you're working on yourself. You're right, self-growth isn't pretty, and there will be mess-ups along the way, but at least you're trying now. This one is from the Malicious Compliance subreddit by Don't Panda. His Raw Burger. Years ago, a friend had people over for a pool party. I offered to help cook the burgers and hot dogs on the grill. People ate faster than I could cook. I probably started later than I should have. So there were a few people who were waiting for their burgers. A guy I will call Jay asked for a burger. Based on the people who were waiting, the one he was going to get had just hit the grill a minute before. But Jay was hungry, hangry even, and began insisting I give him his burger now. So I did. The burger he was going to get was placed on his bun. He was mad, but he didn't have many options, so he asked if I would cook it first, and I agreed. He was much more polite the second time. Fair enough. I'm glad he didn't make a scene when you did that and was just polite to you the next time. I can see this going south very quickly if the guy didn't care about where he was and had a bit more of a temper. Thankfully, he just seems too hungry to argue more. Top comments. I had to include this comment by Coder Joe1. It's a rare man that will admit he's wrong. Yeah. Another comment by Honest Pepper 8229 said, sounds like he had some beef with you first. Another comment by JK says, I worked at a diner, and this older couple would come in about once a week, and they always complained that their burgers were too well done, even though every time I entered the order, I specified rare. So one time, I put their order in, and then I went to the cook and said, listen, put the burger on the grill, sear it, flip it over, sear it, put it on the bun. They asked me if I was sure, and I said, absolutely. I served those burgers, and they said that they were the best they ever had. I mean, the customer is always right, even when they're wrong. I'm sorry, but a burger that rare, if that's your taste, fine, but is it okay to even eat it that rare? The final comment by Powdered Donut. I knew a dude that ate raw hamburgers. He called them cannibal sandwiches. This story is on the r/petty revenge subreddit by Chin Up Nose Down. Sister caught her partner cheating, so she blunted his knives. A bit of backstory. My sister dated a man in his early 30s who had a deep fear of sharp objects of any kind. A fear so deep, my sister cut his food for him for the entirety of the relationship, as knives and scissors caused him panic attacks. He said the texture of cutting raw meat specifically made him think of human flesh, and it caused scary thoughts. She even went so far as to hide knives under the sink instead of in their block just to accommodate him. When my sister discovered he was cheating, he blew up and started screaming not just at my sister, but at her 10-year-old child. Horrible, I mean nasty things. So when my sister came back and packed her things the next day, she went to the knife block, which ironically was his, took the knives he would use to cut meat, went out to the patio and tapped the blade against the concrete, dulling them and putting nicks in the blade so any future cutting would be a sensory nightmare for him. Evil genius. ETA, he had just started being comfortable cutting things in the last month or two leading up to the big blow up that caused her to leave, so he absolutely would be using the knives. I'm glad she left, and oof, just when he was getting better at being around knives, she shatters his piece. It seems deserved though. He can always get a new set of knives, but the true question is, did she put the knife block back to where she took it? It has to be a surprise, so he's inconvenienced. Top comments by Sees It. How is it possible for a man like this to have any woman willing to sleep with him? There's someone for everyone, and some people, especially women, are conditioned to be overly nice as a social and survival method. Let's all be grateful that she and her kid got out. Hopefully she finds someone better, if she still wants a partner, that is. A comment by Thirsty for Knowledge 911 says, funny how a dull knife is actually more dangerous than a sharp one. Yep, dull knives are awful. I was surprised at the amount of stories of people injured injuring themselves. More thanks to a dull knife than a sharp one. Another comment by Formidable Mistress. Cutting raw meat freaks me out too because of intrusive thought. Thinking about trying to cut with those knives gives me a full body chill. Ugh. Clearly he deserves it, but that's brutal. Ugh. I get that. It feels awful anytime an intrusive thought breaks out. It gives me the shivers just thinking about it. I hope what OP's sister's ex had were intrusive thoughts and not just violent thoughts, because there is a big difference. Final comment by Short Stuff 813 says, did anyone else get the vibe that when he said scary thoughts, it meant not phobia in the traditional sense, but it caused anxiety because he wanted to hurt people with them? Commandant commented underneath that, intrusive thoughts can be a real anyone's mental health. Not necessarily a want for harm, they're involuntary thoughts and not something you want to act out on. Imagine like mental Tourette, not defending this guy at all, by the way. This is kind of what I meant earlier. There are two ways to think about it. One, he wants to hurt people whenever there's a knife in his hand, and it makes him anxious because he can't do that unless he wants jail time. Or two, he doesn't want to hurt people, but whenever he has a knife, he thinks about people dying thanks to just knowing what that knife is capable of. If you want more info about intrusive thoughts, since I'm sure I didn't do it justice, I'd recommend that you go look it up. This last post was made on the Malicious Compliance subreddit by Cassie D. If I don't like it, tell it to the news. I guess we're going on the news then. Video evidence. My mother was truly an inspiring woman. Her favorite phrase was, why say bleed when you could say hemorrhage? Because she never did anything halfway when she knew that she could go all the way. We couldn't even ask for help with homework because you'd be up until 3 a.m. on a school night adding one more thing. Then you'd go to school with this magnum opus while everyone around you phoned it in and still got an A. She would rarely get angry, but if you activated her righteous indignation, the repercussions would be legendary. There was one such story of malicious compliance that she always loved to tell, and I just found the receipts, so I wanted to share it with everyone. It started one day when I found a dagger in my brother's room. It was an ornate sort of fantasy style dagger, not something that you would find just anywhere, and it was very sharp. We were not old enough to have something like that at the time. He was only 11. Immediately, my mother walked up behind me and caught me red-handed. So I did what any self-respecting little brother would do and threw him under the bus. My brother wasn't home at the time, so she went through everything and found more of these knives. She laid them out on the table and she was psyching herself up for the hell she was going to bring down upon him. By the time my brother gets home, he walks in and sees her sitting there with the knives out. He immediately goes white as a sheet. She immediately asked where he got them. This was the late 90s, and my brother was pretty into Magic the Gathering. The card shop he went to for his fix was just down the street. He spent a great deal of time there and brought boxes and boxes of these cards from them. So they knew him and knew he was too young. They had sold it to him knowing full well that he was underage, no questions asked. My mother's jaw dropped, and moments later, we were pulling up to the place. She drags my brother into the store and puts the knives in front of the woman who owns the place. She tells her that they sold it to him. Yeah, so what? He's not 18 and he shouldn't have access to these. You need to tell your employees to check IDs before they sell weapons to minors. She was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt before she snapped back with, it's a joke, it's humor, don't you get it? Ah, so the problem is you. I am his mother, and I don't think it's funny. If you won't follow the law, at the very least, I need you to stop selling weapons to my son. I'll do whatever I want, and if you don't like it, tell the news. Surely this woman doesn't know who she's talking to, or the lengths that my mom was willing to go for her kids. I don't know why on earth that would be the phrase you'd use. Now, you're just asking for it. My mom gives her one last chance before the hammer drops. So you're saying that even without my permission, having asked you not to personally, and knowing it is illegal, you would still sell a knife to him? Of course, this is a business. Maybe raise him better if you don't like what he's doing. It was like the air left the room. There were 3 of us boys in elementary, middle, and high school around the same time. She was president of all 3 PTAs for 3 different schools miles apart from each other. She was practically momming as a sport and crushing it by every conceivable standard. This woman had just slighted her to her core and now had to deal with the consequences of her ignorance. My mom didn't say another word. She gathered the knives and we walked out. Even the woman behind the desk looked a little shocked that she was just walking out. now. So was I. We went back to the car and no one said a word. Then you could almost visibly see the resolve set in, and she says, "I guess we're going to the news then." I don't remember her saying another word for the rest of the night. The next day, I woke up and she had papers all around her that she had downloaded and printed off and highlighted. She was on the phone explaining the story to a news station who just opened and responding to emails she sent overnight. I don't think she slept. She had been up researching the laws and building her case. The first reporters she talked to didn't seem to see what she had saw in the story and told her that they wouldn't pick it up. Every time she was told no, she would ask for references to someone who would do something like this. It took weeks of phone tag. She called the next reporter, then another, leaving messages and following up. Finally, she found an investigative reporter who would work with her. They had decided that the best course of action was to put a hidden camera on my brother to send him undercover to buy something larger. Believe me, I am well aware of how outlandish that sounds. They met up down the street and gave my brother some money to buy the biggest weapon he could get. I seem to remember it being $120. Wired him up with a microphone and a spy camera they'd bought at a Radio Shack, and he went in and bought a legit full sword from the place. They jokingly told him not to kill anyone with it as he was walking out. It never asked to see an ID. Afterwards, the reporter interviewed the store owner, who stuck with her old fallback of it being funny to sell deadly weapons to kids. Then they interviewed my mom outside the shop, and the two of them argued on camera. Maybe because they had already caught her on a hidden camera, she felt the need to double down. She had to think people would side with her for some reason. She was irate. My mom just kept feeding her the rope to hang herself with, and the shop owner tied the whole thing into a neatly wrapped bow for the reporter. Just a spectacular failure on her part. It's hard to imagine how it could have gone worse. Sure, it was just a local news report from the 90s. For my mom, it was her hero moment. She knew she was right, and she knew this person had to be stopped. And she did it all the way, just like everything she ever did. In the report, they say that they went back and the place was already closed. Within a month, it was completely out of business. The reporter won an award for the piece, and the righteous indignation was satisfied for the time being. My mom recorded the airing of the report on a VHS tape, and every chance she got, she would parade it around to show people her crowning achievement. She would tell the whole story, and we watched the tape until it was lost to time and became a legend. Through some effort, we found the video, and I know that she would have wanted everyone to see it. So here it is. And they have a link to the video in the post. Edit. I never expected it to blow up like this. My mother would be absolutely beside herself if she could see how far this has gone. She never told this story or showed the video without immediately following it with another more salacious story of an incident in the PTA where she got a woman thrown in jail. It is one of my absolute favorite stories of hers. I felt like I would be remiss not telling it in her place. If you guys want, I'll take a look at it, and if I think it's any good, I'll do a cover on that story as well. Dang, it's not that surprising that the shop would close down after the sword, pun intended, your mom brought down on it. She was persistent. I can't believe that she actually got someone to cover her story. Also, props to her for bragging about it to everyone. Not gonna lie, if I somehow got a shop to shut down and there was proof of it, assuming I did it for a good reason, of course, I'd also go around bragging about it. It would be an heirloom. That shop owner really messed up with the sword though. The dagger, not really. It's dangerous. Sure, but getting caught selling it definitely wouldn't have caused as much of a storm as a freaking sword. Top comments. M. Chamba says, "There's a special kind of brilliance in people who treat being underestimated as an opportunity rather than an insult. Your mom weaponized competence in the most surgical way possible. No shouting, no chaos, just quiet devastation delivered with facts and follow through." I will say, when the shop owner originally sold the dagger, since the law only goes after longer knives, it wasn't illegal, but the owner defending themselves like that and getting on the mom's bad side led to this whole investigation where it did prove that the shop owner would sell longer knives like that sword that she sold the boy to minors. So you could say that it worked out in the end and that the mom's indignation was justified. Commenter Tychus Balrong says, "That sounds absolutely amazing and an insane lack of self-preservation or foresight from the shop owner." Mr. Hash Brown underneath that says, right? On one hand, I feel somewhat bad for the shop owner as it sounds like there was some nuance to the law. The news broadcast said only longer knives were illegal for minors. So painting them in a bad light, disregarding what the rest of the shop was about, and getting local news involved reminds me of The Simpsons' reoccurring joke of, won't someone please think of the children? Especially appropriate for the 90s. That being said, dang, the shop owner really misread how to handle things. First off, calling it funny to sell them was just going to invite a negative response. Then they blamed the parents for negligence and not being involved with their kids? Yikes. Ultimately, it sounds like OP's mom won over the public opinion, and history is always written by the victors. See? Yeah, if it were just the dagger, then it definitely wouldn't have gotten as much attention. You could say the mom was overreacting to the dagger being sold to her son, even though it is dangerous if you don't know what you're handling. But at the end of the day, the owner did sell a full-on sword to a minor, so you could say she deserved it in the end. Last comment by Zombie Charlie says, kudos to your mom for bringing them down. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt on said weapons. I know some nerdy people that have sword/fantasy weapons, but they all know how to be responsible around them, and they are all adults. The owner was very quick to lay the blame elsewhere. Kids are gonna do stupid regardless of good or bad parenting. We as a society need to help protect those kids. It takes a village and all that. True, the owner should have done a check regarding what they are and aren't allowed to sell, and none of this would have happened if she did so. And then doubling down when she got caught? Yikes. That's a really bad look. Outro time! I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and leave a comment down below if you think there's anything that I may have missed. I'm trying to think in different perspectives, but sometimes things fall through the cracks. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a great day and a good night. Beans out. Bye!